What is up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. Once again, we're back for another episode of My Team Career Mode, episode number 85. And this time, we're here for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Check out the last episode if you haven't seen it already. It was Monaco, round 3 of a new season. Very early on in the calendar to do that race, but it was a banger nonetheless. In terms of upgrades heading into this race, we're having a major DRS upgrade, which will be coming in time for the next episode. So we'll see how that goes. I've done that specifically to be better in qualifying. There's no secret that our qualifying performances have been bang average for a long time now. So hopefully that can address that issue. We fast forward time a little bit. We get an influx of resource points, 400 or 500 or so, and we can now squeeze on one final upgrade. And I'm actually going to do durability for the first time this season after losing most of my durability upgrades. So, yeah, progress. Speaking of progress, we're now the best car in Formula 1 in Season 5. It's pretty mental when you think about it. And when you look at the performance index, you'll have to rewind the video just to see that. But none of the top teams have upgraded so far this season. It looks like they've hit a roof, but I think the roof for most teams is like around 1,000 resource points, or not resource points. What am I on about? It's about 1,000 performance points, and Mercedes isn't even near that. So that's a bit confusing, if I'm honest. We'll see and track the progress of the other teams as this season unfolds. But for the time being, we're the best car, and we've got to live up to that reputation as we head into qualifying for this Baku race. So let's head into quali now, and let's hope that myself and Lando can absolutely smash it. Right then, it's quali time. One thing before we get going of note is that it's actually meant to rain in about 30 minutes into the qualifying session, whatever the hell that means, but expect some rain definitely by Q3, I reckon. So yeah, we're gonna take to the circuit like a duck in water, and we're gonna hopefully plonk this thing on provisional pole position. Not quite the case in our first lap, so I'm gonna go again and hopefully better that. The car always handles very, very differently in qualifying than what it does in practice, because you've got that extra engine mode, you're taking all the fuel out, and all of a sudden it becomes a bit of an unstable beast. And I always seem to struggle to get to grips with that in Q1, and it's made even more tough by the fact that I don't want to use tires in the first qualifying session. So sometimes I put in some dodgy times like that, where I'm 8/10 off of Lando Norris. But there you go. I had 2 stabs at it. My second lap wasn't any better, unfortunately, but there's definitely a lot more time in the car. We now head into Q2 now, where I warned you guys about some rain, but I wasn't expecting it to hit so imminently. Apparently, it's raining now. So I'm just verifying on the onboard screens, because it can say it's raining now, but then it actually be dry. It is raining, so I've wasted about 30 seconds trying to verify that it's okay, that it's not okay, actually. And we head out there in Q2 on a very dodgy, damp Azerbaijan circuit. So this is not going to be... Oh my goodness. This middle section, I'm showing you these 3 or 4 corners, because I crashed at I nearly crashed at just about every opportunity there. So dodgy. But anyway, first sector of the lap was okay, and now we're getting to a point where literally every corner is a hazard. This circuit is unrelenting. It's unforgiving, and especially with the way that we've set up the car, running with low downforce, I think 2.6 wings, it makes the car very, very unstable, as you can see, getting back on the power through the third sector now. We nearly binned it on the out lap, and we've got through there a little bit better this time. But that last corner, I tell you, it's a nightmare in the wet with low downforce. Anyway, we're coming to the end of the lap now, and this will probably be our best lap of the session. It's a 1:47. Provisional pole is a 1 minute 41. We've been knocked out of the top 10 by Lando, who has just set his time behind me. So it's Marduk Motorsport in the mud in this wet Azerbaijan qualifying session, and that's how it ends. Kevin Magnussen tops the session. He was the first man to set a time and stays there, essentially. For us, though, it's 11th place. I guess you could say this is strategic pole position for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Lando is going to progress through, but I don't know where he's going to end up because we're not present for Q3. So as we head into the race, I don't know. I don't know. If Lando's on pole, it's good in some ways, but not in others, because he's going to get some big points over me in the race.
Tough luck there. It's not quite where we'd want to be on the grid, but chin up, it's not the end of the world.
And a warm welcome to you from Azadlik Square, heart of Baku and home, of course, to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. With high speeds, tight corners and few runoff zones, many are expecting a safety car here today, so our drivers will have to stay very much on their toes and hopefully away from the barriers. With me today, of course, is Anthony Davidson. Let's talk about Day. They're starting towards the back of the field today in a car that is fast, so they'll be disappointed, won't they?
It's not a nice feeling, I promise you. They've got a quick car underneath them, but they've got onto the grid today and they need a pair of binoculars to see the start lights. They'll be desperate for a good start to make up for some of that deficit.
Thank you, Anthony Davidson, for that glowing introduction. It's time to see the grid. Obviously, we already saw Lando on pole position, so, I mean, from a team perspective, that's great, but I'm already looking ahead to 3, 4, 5 races when Lando becomes a championship threat. He is already starting on pole position, and this is our first race of being a front-running car. This is a big problem for us. We need to contain him, and we've got to do it from 11th place on the grid. The way we do that is we try and overcut him massively, hope for a safety car, and then go from there. Yeah, we're going to try and make the medium-soft strategy work for us. Some people, those in the top 10, will have to use the hards maybe to get to the end, so maybe we've got that as a strategic play. But we are underway for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Little wheel spin off the start there. We're not going to lose a position. I don't think so, as we get around the outside of Valtteri Bottas and we maintain starting position. Aitken having a look up the inside of our provisional pole man, Kevin Magnussen. Obviously in Q3 had nothing to contest with the front running teams. I think this grid is going to be very out of order in these first few laps. I think we're going to see a lot of overtakes happening left, right, and center, and we're going to be the catalyst for those, hopefully, as we're trying to work away at Jack Aitken here in the McLaren. We're going to dive at the inside into the middle sector, and that is us now into the points. Magnussen in the Alpha, we know he's going to be slow. He's going to fall into our clutches, even though he has a tire advantage. So, you know, hopefully we can get some slipstream, some DRS off him. Use him as a leapfrog as we run through the castle section. We've survived that once. We've got 25 more to go to get to the end of this one. But yeah, we're losing a bit of touch with Magnussen through this middle sector, as you can see. However, we are going to reel him in as their tires wear out and we get a little bit more comfortable with the car on heavy fuel. So I'm remaining optimistic. It's been a good start so far, but I need to keep going. I need to make sure I stay within the realms of DRS and slipstream of the guys ahead. Otherwise, this challenge just becomes a lot more difficult for me. So yeah, that's the target. I'm using up a little bit more ERS than what I normally would. You wouldn't be able to tell because I had 100% ERS going through the middle sector last time by. But anyway, this car is ridiculous when it comes to ERS management. I don't even need to think about it. I can just send it and the car is pretty forgiving. But Aitken came pretty close to overtaking us there on the run down into turn 1, so I had to use up a little bit of ERS and fuel to stay ahead. That was a crucial decision there, because now we're in a position where we can actually overtake Magnussen here, and we're going to do so with a bit of overtake and DRS ourselves as we leapfrog past him, and we now get ourselves up into P9. Crucially, there's a bit of a battle emerging just up the road. I think it's Daniel Ricciardo holding up this little train of cars, or at least he was. It seems to have broken up a little bit now, but we're closing up onto the back of Sainz, And the nature of Baku, this power track, means that when you encounter traffic, if you can, providing you can get through the traffic, it means that you actually don't get held up running behind other cars. In actual fact, it's faster in some ways to run behind other cars, especially when we're running the medium. We're getting the slower tire out of the way right now, and we're also getting like piggybacked along by slower cars on faster tires. So it's in a way dragging us towards Lando, but Lando is a long way up the road at this point. We need to start putting in the graft if we want to be any chance of beating him in this race. Sainz goes defensive into turn one. We go round the outside and we make that stick. That was a move. That was the move of the season, I reckon. As you can see here, round the outside, we had so much overspeed on Sainz, but the DRS with Overtake, with the upgrades that we've made, I wasn't sure that we were going to pull that up, and we did so while making the move stick. What a move that was. Carbon copy on the next lap on Stroll, and this time it's a little bit more calm. We leave him a lot more space on the apex. We get the move done, not as late under brakes, but it's still a great move regardless. And we're now in 7th place in this Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Make that P6, make that P5, as some of the race leaders are making their one and only stop. As you can see, Lando going on hard, so he doesn't have the tyre wear to utilize the strategy that we're doing, because he had to start on his soft tyres from quali. So that's a major advantage for us. But meanwhile, just up the road, we had Albon we were focusing on in the Mercedes. He's actually got a problem with his car, the engineer just told me, and he's into the pit lane. So too with Gasly and Verstappen. And now these guys are overcutting by one lap, and you can see that they've been jumped by a lot of the runners who stopped one lap prior. So they're all squabbling on hard compound tyres now, whereas we're up front on still relatively well-kept medium compound tyres. One thing I've noticed so far is that the tyre wear hasn't been as harsh as we anticipated. The tyre wear numbers are looking pretty good, so this only makes my strategy even more viable. The worst tyre is at only 30% on the right rear tyre, and we've already done 9 laps on them. So when we get to the pit stop window, lap 15-ish, 16, they'll be under 60%. They'll be around 50%-ish. So that's still a lot of life in the tyre, as Carlos Sainz now retires from the Grand Prix in the McLaren. Could bring out a safety car, in which case that would kind of ruin my strategy. So let's hope that that doesn't end up being the case. It isn't. We're fine. It's up 13. And the gap to Norris is about 9 seconds. So for the most part, Lando has been lapping very similarly to me, actually, over the last few laps, because our mediums, have more grip. They are older, but the softs, the hards that Lando had had no pace in them, basically. So we were able to maintain the advantage that we had, and it makes life a little bit more easy as we get into the back end of this race. We could well catch up to the likes of Ocon and maybe Norris if we're rapid in the back end of this race. But we'll see how the tyre wear is. It has been pretty forgiving so far in this race, as we rejoin side by side with Charles Leclerc. We just about edge him out there, and we get the move done, and we hold on to that position. That could prove crucial, as that's one less car we have to battle to get through the field. So now we only have to focus on Bottas, but unfortunately we've caught him at a bad point. We're going to be a lot faster than him through this middle sector. So what I'm actually opting to do is, instead of using tyre performance right here, I'm actually going to save a bit of fuel. I am negative. I think I started off with -1 or -2 laps of fuel, but we'll be fine. We'll still make the finish with fuel to spare, I reckon. So we utilize a bit of rich, bit of overtake on this start finish straight. And Bottas in the Mercedes has a lot of straight line speed, a lot more than what I was anticipating. And so we're being held up now. It's allowing Ocon to get away. 7 seconds up the road. 7 seconds. We got 10 laps to catch him. We're going to be about a second, maybe 2 seconds lap faster than those guys. We go around the outside of Bottas into the middle sector. And I tell you what, I really had to push the limit of the tyres there to get that move done. That Mercedes is very quick, even with hard compound tyres on. But anyway, just asking Jeff about Ocon as we set the fast lap of the Grand Prix. Ocon, believe it or not, is actually on a 2-stop race, so he needs to stop again. So already, it's a 1-2 for Marduk Motorsport in this Grand Prix. We've gone from 11th to, at worst, we're going to be second in this race, which is pretty mental. But I think there may well be more up for grabs. We've already caught the 2 up ahead by 2 seconds in the last lap and a half. And there's still a long way to go. We're setting purples, and we're actually going even faster on this lap. So, I don't know. We might be on target for a race win. If we can catch Ocon early enough, we can get some slipstream and DRS, which could well leapfrog us onto the back of Lando. But we really need to push in these next few laps. We need qualifying laps in order to get there. As you can see, we come to the end of this lap, and this will be our fastest lap of the Grand Prix, a 1 minute 36.7, which is a second faster than what I did on the last lap while battling Bottas. Meanwhile, we got Pierre Gasly retiring from the Grand Prix, and he pulls off into what is quite possibly the safest zone on the circuit to park. No danger of a safety car, which would certainly help us now at this point. We fast forward a couple of laps, and you can see we're within a second of Ocon, and that gives us some DRS as my pit window is apparently open. Jeff, I'm not boxing. Are you crazy? The tyre wear is actually really good in this race. It's 29%, and we've been on these tyres for a good 5 laps or so. So, again, we're going to get to the end with comfort and with a lot of pace, I reckon, as well, as we're all over the back of Ocon. He's using a bit of rich and overtake on the run into this downhill left-hander, one of the most difficult corners on the circuit, as you really have to get the angle right, otherwise it can spit you off into the outside barrier, which we have avoided so far in this Grand Prix. There's still 5 more opportunities for us to stuff it up. As you can see, Ocon making his stop, relinquishing us into P2, and Lando is right there. Lando Norris, our teammate, who was 11 seconds up the road or something when we came out of the pit lane, is only 9 tenths in front of us, and crucially, we get some DRS. We get DRS, which is only going to drag us ever closer to the rear wing of our teammate. We've still got 5 laps to go. We could get this lead and then some. We might even be able to get outside of 1 second of DRS of Lando. But, you know, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Lando is only going to get stronger as this race goes on. My tyre wear is going to be pretty bad towards the end. But I'm hoping with the lower tyre wear figures, we might be able to fight towards the end as well as we get the slipstream and DRS on Norris. I think he's turned the engine down because we fly right past him in a straight line. Lando opting not to argue on that one as we give him a bit of a wave. Ocon sets the fast lap of the Grand Prix. So that kind of confirms his pace. But yeah, we got outside of 1 second pretty easily there on Lando, but we've got 2 to go, and the signs of tyre wear are starting to hit 60% on the right rear tyre. As we head on to the last lap of the Grand Prix, basically, we just need to bring it home. The gap is 2 seconds. He's not within a second, so that's the danger number we need to watch out for. Jeff told me to back it off and bring it home, so that's what I'm doing to a degree, and you can see Lando is actually reeling me in quite quickly. He's gone from 2.2 seconds to 1.2 in this sector, this lap alone. Now, what I think has actually happened is I think Lando has turned the engine up to overtake for the whole lap in a way like the game does to us on auto ERS, and I was none the wiser. I had no idea until about now that Lando is all over me. The gap is 3 tenths. How the hell has this happened? This is genuinely not scripted. Lando has pace all of a sudden, and I'm losing it right in the dying stages of this race. I am not going to throw away this race. Rich and overtake up to the line, and we are just going to hold on from our teammates.
Absolutely fantastic. It's a brilliant result. Well done.
And Talk to me. What do you think it was that sealed the win for them?
Well, Crofty, this was won through an abundance of speed and an abundance of skillful overtakes. Inside, outside, cutting underneath, we saw it all today. And it's really nice to see a Grand Prix won in that manner. A race, surely, that will satisfy the purists today, I think.
Well, I'm thoroughly exhausted after the excitement of that race, but I'm sure it's nothing compared to our drivers here. They've worked hard to make it up there, and it's great to see them make their way out onto the podium.
Oh my goodness. We came so close to a potential disaster there. We nearly gifted Lando Norris his first win in Formula One. Not quite. Not quite, he says. Anyway, that was a little too close for comfort. Like I said, that wasn't scripted. I was driving normally, but obviously that was the crossover point, paired with the fact that Lando used all of his battery on that last lap. Yeah, our tires were probably at its worst on that last lap, and then I think there was the odd snap or two, which definitely didn't help things. But either way, it's a miraculous 1-2. It's a 1-2. I feel relieved at the end of that race because I held on, but really, I don't think I should have been in that fight. We made up so much time on that strategy. It was absolutely incredible. Medium to soft was absolutely the best strategy in the field. Everyone else either two-stopped or they used the hards doing a one-stop, which was not the way to go. And the tire wear, I think for everyone, was much lower than anticipated. The track was pretty cool as well. It allowed me to run the strategy and run it pretty convincingly, carrying us both to the lead of the drivers and the constructors now in this season of career mode, which is pretty mental. But there we go, guys. That's been this episode for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Leave a like, subscribe, all that good stuff if you want to stay up to date with this series. But yeah, Marduk Motorsport, at least on the performance index, we're back on top. Mercedes had their issues today with their strategy. Albon had his performance issues, and I think he did a two-stop as well. He didn't even get points. That's how we were able to get such a big leap on him in the championship. But I'm keen to see where this goes now. What is going to happen with the rest of the field? Have they hit their ceiling in terms of upgrades? Because I haven't upgraded in a while, but like I said at the start of the episode, I don't think that's the case. I think we're due for a big reset or a big response from the AI. I think there's going to be some upgrades coming soon, and we're going to have to keep pace if we want to stay at the front of the field. Anyway, I'm waffling. Thanks, guys. Peace. I'll see you in the next one. Not sure which race it is. Austria, maybe? Oh, nice overtake, that one. Anyway, I'll see you next time.